SuperTalk.com. Now, today we get to learn how the blues went international. And I think we all know that it is an international phenomenon, but really, like the blues, they went internationally. Dr. Rolando Herts, the director of the Delta Center for Culture and Learning and executive director for the Mississippi Delta National Heritage Area from Delta State, is joining us today to share a little bit more about this unique story. Welcome, Dr. Herts.
Hello, Rebecca. How are you?
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, all the things. It's that weird sort of time. I know you're on holiday break there at Delta State, but this is a super cool story. So tell us how the Delta delegation even got started.
Sure, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and all of your listeners. So we started this in 2019. It started with me going to Brazil for the National Association for Interpretation of International Conference and presenting there on our work. And I have to tell you that the Delta Center, our mission is to promote greater understanding of the Mississippi Delta's culture and history and its significance to the world. We take that international component very, very seriously. And so this was an opportunity to kind of spread the message. And I learned while I was there in Rio that they were having a Mississippi Delta Blues Festival there. The first annual one. When I went there, then I met the festival organizer. His name is Toyo Zagoso, and he's from southeastern Brazil, a town called Caxias do Sul. And I learned that they had been doing a blues festival there, Mississippi Delta Blues Festival, for 12 years at that point.
That's really cool. That's really neat.
Very cool.
Yeah. Do you even know how that got started, the 12 years prior?
Yeah, well, talking with him, he had been visiting the Mississippi Delta for years, back and forth. And it just because he had this fascination with the blues, and there are others there in Brazil who have the same fascination, he decided to start it just because of his love for the Mississippi Delta and Mississippi Delta culture, which was really, really fascinating.
You know, Dr. Herts, we always hear that people internationally travel to Mississippi, and I think it goes in one ear and sort of out the other. They were like, oh, yeah, they come, we know, yeah. But, like, they really do, and they really take back what they either, connect with or enjoy about Mississippi, and they celebrate it or at least, enjoy it in their home countries. That's so fascinating.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Travel South USA, which serves as like the Southern destination marketing organization for all the Southern region, Brazil is considered to be one of its emerging tourism markets. So that was another reason why we partnered with Visit Mississippi and other entities to do this work.
Really cool. Okay, so then you were over there, you're astonished, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to a Mississippi festival, there in Brazil. What inspired you to maybe bring them to Mississippi?
Well, actually, it was us going there. That's the main thing about Delta delegation to Brazil, is that we are taking the cultural heritage, storytellers, blues players, tourism promoters from the Mississippi Delta to Brazil and promoting the Mississippi Delta as a destination there, as well as using that as a world stage to celebrate our cultural heritage.
When you have to think about all the things that you have to cram into or get the point across about the Mississippi Delta, and a small, frame of time, you don't have the entire, you can't unzip their head and pack in all the Delta culture and zip them back up because it's a hard thing to sort of explain. How do you think through about what you're going to either present or share or show or take with you?
Well, with it being a Mississippi Delta Blues Festival already, clearly the blues is at the forefront, but then you also have artists there who are interpreting the cultural heritage in various ways. You have people performing different things. You have, they set up the entire festival this year. It was the Clarksdale edition. They set it up to look like Clarksdale in various ways, like Clarksdale venues and all of that. That was also part of it, that you see them celebrating it. So, it's not really hard because you already have people primed for it. And being over the Mississippi Delta National Heritage Area, we have 5 themes that incorporate like the river, agriculture, the blues, civil rights, folk art, immigrant groups. So we have a framework for telling those stories when we talk to people, and it really gets them very interested. And so you mentioned people coming from Brazil to the Mississippi Delta. That is happening as well. My colleague at Visit Clarksdale, Bubba O'Keefe, who runs it, has said that he's seen an uptick in Brazilian tourists because of this exposure. So we're just hoping to see this grow over the next few years.
I think this is something for us all to be proud of and also interested in the fact that, hey, we take so many of our cultural places and stops and things kind of for granted. We always encourage visiting Mississippi here on good things. And it's like people are really traveling across the pond to come where you could go on any given, weekend or explore and enjoy and learn more about. And, sometimes we forget that, hey, what we have here is pretty unique.
That is true, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity to build pride of place among our Mississippi Delta residents and Mississippi people at large. That people are coming here to, like you said, take advantage of and experience what we take for granted. And so how do we then take that to them so they get a taste of it and then make them really want to come again and again, which is what Toyo and his festival organizers, they have done over the years. They've come back and back again to get that flavor of authenticity to take it back. And so we're helping them to enrich that flavor by participating in the festival.
Oh, that's so cool to me. I mean, how neat would it be to travel internationally and then wind up, celebrating one of your own back home sort of festivals with people, of a completely different culture and community that appreciate, where you came from. So Brazil, you've got that one kind of checked off. Where else are you looking towards, Dr. Herts, to sort of take this story?
Well, we want to get Brazil nailed down. One of the things with us being a Delta State University, of course, this is an educational endeavor. So what we're hoping to do is to actually work with a university there in Brazil that we have a partnership with officially, University of Caxias do Sul, and develop this as an exchange that goes back and forth. So like we go down there for the Mississippi Delta Blues Festival Brazil, and then in the spring, then they bring a group up to experience Juke Joint Festival that happens in April of every year out of Clarksdale, which also draws international tourists. And so we see that as a framework for sharing our cultures, across the miles and all of that, and sharing the differences, the similarities. We talked about doing an actual Delta cultural symposium there at the University of Caxias do Sul, creating this as a course in the fall where people, not just students at Delta State, but maybe folks even around the community, throughout the state, throughout our communities there, can go with us and be a part of that experience.
How do you get signed up with that? Because that's really cool.
We're working on it, I tell you. There's always red tape with those sorts of things. And we did have a very, very productive meeting with our partners at University of Caxias do Sul, and they're working up a plan right now that we're then going to, in the new year, start to kind of iteratively refine, back and forth. And then hopefully, like I said, when the fall rolls around, we'll have this as a course that we can have folks to sign up for and be a part of, that developing that experience.
Well, I think it's too a good thing to sort of let parents or I guess students listening to good things know that, hey, look, Delta State's got some really cool courses, some really cool different areas of interest that if you're into that or want to explore more, I mean, there's some really cool things happening.
Absolutely. So I would really encourage folks to check out our website. For the Delta Center, it's deltacenterdsu.com. For the Heritage area, it's msdeltaheritage.com. And just, stay in touch with us. My email address is rherts, RHERTS, @deltastate.edu. You can email me directly for information, and we'll put you on our mailing list. We do have a newsletter that comes out with information and such. And so, as we develop this, we would love for people to know people's interest in this. We're already getting folks in the local community there in Cleveland and the Delta who saying they want to go too. So we're going to be listening to those folks and figuring out how we can make that happen.
We're going to have a whole bandwagon of Mississippians headed to Brazil for our own festival. Just watch and see. I think it's really cool. Part of the culture there in the Delta, though, is the food. So at the Mississippi Delta Blues Festival in Brazil, did they have some good fried catfish, some tamales, some collard greens, cornbread?
I think they did their best to kind of replicate some things, but it's nothing like being in Mississippi, right? So that becomes a selling point. It's like, well, if you really want to really take some really good catfish or hot tamales or whatever, you got to come to the Mississippi Delta, and that becomes our big selling point. But again, that's a great venue for folks to start getting an initial taste of it and then that makes them want to come up. I mean, that's what we've heard resoundingly from folks that we talked to down there in Brazil. They're very, very excited, and they're very excited to practice their English. That's like a big deal for them. That's very important for them in the business world and the educational world, is to be bilingual. And so having those exchanges are also very enriching for them, and they want that.
Well, that's pretty cool, Dr. Herts. I appreciate your time here. Again, Happy New Year, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you. You can always give us good updates with this story here on Good Things.
Will do. Thanks so much, Rebecca, and thanks to your listeners.
All righty, you guys stick with us. We got more for you.